come on, did we learn nothing from G.I. Joe the movie? Hey everybody, what's going on? Today we're going to be talking about a movie that should have been good, that could have been good. While I'm not saying this movie didn't have things that I liked, because it had a lot that I liked. It also had some really stupid things in it that was making the same mistakes that G.I. Joe the movie made when it came to the franchise. Today, we're going to be talking, of course, about Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins. I mean, we all know that movies that have, the word origins in it do very well. Isn't that right, Logan? Look, I'm going to warn you, there's going to be spoilers in this review. I'm talking about this movie. If you haven't noticed on the channel, I am a G.I. Joe fan. We've had kind of an unofficial, I don't know if it's a complete G.I. Joe week, but this is the last day, and I was so hoping that this last review would be a good one. And I am going to talk about how this movie did some good things, because I liked a lot of what this movie did. But there was things also in it that it did that were stupid. Extremely stupid. There's the occasional technical stupid thing. And then there's the story-wise stupid stuff. Unnecessary things that shouldn't have been there. I was with this movie for a lot of it. I know a lot of people are ripping into this movie, and really, there is a lot that I liked about this. It could have been good. It was doing well, and it fails because they didn't learn their lesson. They didn't learn their lesson of what not to put in a G.I. Joe movie. Okay, again, spoilers coming. Do I recommend it? For the stuff that works, sure. Rent it, though. You don't need to see this in theaters. I wanted to love this movie. I really did. If you can't tell, I'm so disappointed. Okay. I'm going to look at this movie as I do for the stuff that I like, that I'm a fan of. I'm going to look at it two different ways, as a fan and as a reviewer. So there's going to be all sorts of opinions on the way. Okay, the way the story starts out is it's 20 years ago, and a little kid is with his dad, and his dad, they're walking, and the kid mentions something about a safe house, and he's like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, I overheard you talking the other day, talking about a safe house." Come to find out that somebody was after his dad, because at night he wakes his son up, says, "We gotta go," but it's too late. There's people there. His son is able to escape, and the dad is killed. The son does see who kills his dad. Skip to 20 years later, we meet Snake Eyes, which, by the way, when the killer killed his dad, he had a couple of dye, and he rolled them, and Snake Eyes popped up, and that's where Snake Eyes gets his name. Because here's the thing, our main character, as should be, doesn't have a name, so he is called Snake Eyes. He calls himself Snake Eyes, and because of the dye roll, and that's what he sticks with, because even the name, which we don't even learn the name his dad gave him, even that name wasn't real. So he has no name. He has no past. Again, which is the way Snake Eyes should be. So I liked what the movie was doing so far. But over these 20 years, he's apparently learned to fight and everything else, because we see him fighting in like a pit fight. And he is recruited by the Yakuza to help them smuggle weapons. They need guys like him, because they're like, well, you're a little crazy when you fight, but you can fight and you're tough. And he kick the crap out of this bigger guy, even though the guy kicked the crap out of him too. But anyway, we jumped, I think it was like a month later, 5 weeks later, something like that. And he's working for the Yakuza, and he is approached by Tommy, who is a very important character. Tommy calls him Fish Boy because Snake Eyes will, when they're smuggling weapons, they're cutting open these big fish and stuffing them full of machine guns. So he calls him Fish Boy. But anyway, Tommy comes to get him, says, "Boss wants to talk to you." And it ends up Tommy saying somebody's in trouble, but it ends up being Tommy. We find out that Tommy is in the Yakuza undercover for his ninja clan, the Arashikage. And I hope I always say that name right. I always get mixed up saying that name for some reason. But anyway, they find out that he's a spy because of somebody that he's acquainted with that he had banished years ago, and that would be Kenta. Kenta is his cousin, and he was banished from the Arashikage. But he's now like a big crime lord, and we'll talk about who he's attached to later. Which, granted, we're talking G.I. Joe, you know who it is. But anyway, so Tommy and Snake Eyes, Tommy's going to be killed. They give Snake Eyes the gun, and Snake Eyes can't shoot him. So they fight their way out, and they get away, and that's when we find out that Tommy is with the Arashikage, and of course they've got all their money and private planes and all that stuff. So the Arashikage are doing very well for themselves, and they get away to their fortress. Tommy ends up vouching for Snake Eyes, saying, I need someone like him in the clan. So that's how Snake Eyes gets into the clan. But there's a twist. And this is what I was like, okay, they're doing something different here. See, this movie does not follow any of the original Snake Eyes stories that I know. And that's okay with me. I'm okay with them changing it up. We've come to find out that Snake Eyes is a plant of Kenta, and he's supposed to get into the Arashikage clan so that he can steal this jewel that they have. And the jewel is one of the problems. Come to find out, and we learn later, that Kenta is working with the terrorist group Cobra. So Cobra already exists in this world, which I was okay with. We don't need an origin story for G.I. Joe and Cobra, right? So Cobra already exists, and Kenta's working for them. They want this jewel, and he wants the clan destroyed, so they're working together. And Snake Eyes is doing the Arashikage dirty by trying to get in, find out where this jewel is, and steal it. So they mixed up the origin stories. They really, and that's actually what I like, because you can tell that Snake Eyes will eventually have to have a redemption story, and also they can play into the Snake Eyes, Tommy, aka Storm Shadow's brotherhood and betrayal. So I like this. I liked what they're doing. And by the way, I'm going to say this already. Storm Shadow is my favorite part of this movie. Andrew Koji, who plays Storm Shadow, Tommy, favorite part of the movie. Not saying I didn't like Henry Golding, don't get me wrong. But my favorite part of the movie was Storm Shadow. And they give him a lot of emotional baggage to deal with. Again, Snake Eyes has his own baggage too, and it works. But I don't know. I just really dug Andrew Koji's portrayal of Storm Shadow. So Snake Eyes gets in this group, and he has to take these different tests and everything. and the tests are really to bring out your true self and reveal your secrets and everything. Snake Eyes first has to deal with the Hard Master, which I love. Iko Uwais, if I said his name right. He is the lead in like the Raid movies, and he's the Hard Master, and he's awesome. That's the first test, and then the second test, Snake Eyes has to deal with the Blind Master, which is Peter Mensa, and all these two tests are to get you ready for the third test. The third test is the other big problem I had with the movie, but we'll get to that. So you have the setup of Snake Eyes is trying to get this jewel for Kenta, the bad guy who wants to give it to Cobra. The only real part of Cobra that we meet is the Baroness, played by Ursa Cabero, who I am not familiar with. She's okay. Don't get me wrong, she has the Baroness look, right? I don't know. Being that we already had a really good Baroness in movie form, in the first G.I. Joe, the Rise of Cobra movie, I don't know. We had even though they didn't give her the baggage that Baroness got, this one, it's just the straight up Baroness. She works for Cobra. And that's the way it really should be. I didn't need an origin story for the Baroness in the first G.I. Joe movie, but I was fine with it. But I like that she's just the Baroness, and she does do a decent job as the Baroness. I don't know. I'm a little on and off with her character. Maybe if they do continue this franchise, which there is a somewhat mid-credit scene, they're definitely, of course, setting it up. And the end of the movie sets it up too. So, you've got Cobra already existing. So I like the setup. I really did. I don't want to spoil too much, but I do have to talk about the third test, and I do have to talk about the jewel. But let's talk about what's working with this movie first. Again, I like the brotherhood between Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. I liked that they had the Arashikage clan's tests. It's all about revealing your true self. So you've got Snake Eyes, who's trying to deceive them, and especially like the Blind Master may already know he's trying to deceive them, because he can tell when people are lying and things like that. So all the Arashikage stuff is working. The movie was working for me until it got to the third test. Let's talk about the third test. Again, spoilers here. Okay, in my review for G.I. Joe the movie, I talked about how G.I. Joe, whenever they delved into anything supernatural, it never really worked. Now, you had the synthoids and things like that. Those could be based in science, right? So that stuff worked. But when like G.I. Joe the movie came, you had like Cobra Law and all that stuff where you've got Globulus and Nemesis Enforcer and stuff, and it's all monsters and things like that. And that never worked for G.I. Joe for me. Even though the characters look cool and everything, and I had the toys and stuff, as a G.I. Joe fan, it was more about the tech and the military stuff and things like that. If you could base it in science, it worked, right? And again, like synthoids were a stretch, but they made it scientific, so it worked. In this movie, when it got to the third test, it's part of the trailer where you see him like going down into like a pit. It could have been anything. I mean, it could have been anything. It could have been better. It could have been, based in science. I mean, the Arashikage have like this science lab. I mean, earlier in the movie, you see the Snake Eye suit being made, right? In like a lab. But they lower him into this pit. And again, spoilers here, guys. and he hits the switch that he's supposed to hit, and there's some tunnel ways that open up, like the cages open up, and out comes three gigantic, like Resident Evil gigantic snakes.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
And that's where I rolled my eyes and said, really, this is where we're going with this? Now, if they would have been like robots or something, because later in the movie, one of their heads gets cut off, right? Because, of course, they have to bring the giant snakes back. The snakes are supposed to reveal that if you have a pure heart and you're there to honor the Arashikage, they won't attack you, right? So, they come back later in the movie, of course, whenever in the final fight. But I thought when the head got cut off, maybe it'd be a robot or something. No. They're real. They're real. They're giant snakes. And that's where the movie just... I was still invested in most of the storyline, but man, that's where my heart just dropped with this one, because this whole movie was based in somewhat realism. I mean, you had some tech and stuff like that it doesn't really exist, but that's G.I. Joe, right? A lot of people in the Rise of Cobra had a problem with the super suits. I like the super suits because that's something G.I. Joe would do. But giant snakes, man, did we learn nothing? Did we learn nothing from G.I. Joe the movie? So yeah, the giant snakes. I hated the giant snakes, and then they brought them back near the end, and I hated it even more. The next issue I had was the introduction of G.I. Joe. Look, I love Samara Weaving. You on this channel know that, Samara Weaving is, that I think she's amazing. And I was happy she was in this movie. I love the idea of her playing Scarlet. And I liked her as Scarlet in this. I did. But you didn't need to introduce G.I. Joe till the end of the movie. It would have been better had you left Samara Weaving out of this movie. I'm not saying I didn't like her in this movie. I'm just saying you didn't need to introduce her in this movie. At least until the end. Because they introduce her, because all of a sudden they're talking about where they discover this weapons cache, and they're trying to stop Kenta and secure these weapons, because he's, of course, trying to start a war with Arashikage. And they find these weapons, and they see the Cobra symbol, and they're like, we're gonna call Scarlet. And it's like, who's Scarlet? She's with G.I. Joe. So G.I. Joe already exists in this world, which I was okay with, but I really think that just bringing her in this movie, you could have focused on other things. Now, if she would have showed up right at the end, fans of G.I. Joe would know who Scarlet was, right? She could have had a Nick Fury Iron Man moment where, they're talking, where Snake Eyes' character is going to go at the end of the movie, and then all of a sudden, they have the scene that they had, right? With Scarlet showing up at the end, what she does at the end. The secret she reveals at the end. They could have had her just show up and say, well, I have this for you. You ever want to join us? You know where to find me, right? Granted, they wanted to set up somewhat of a trust between Snake Eyes and Scarlet throughout the movie, but here's the thing. They barely interact. Scarlet says, I'm on my way. And then when she shows up for the final fight. The scene in the trailers where you see they're fighting on the highway, she's not there. A lot of people think one of the characters is her jumping around off the motorcycle stuff. No, that's Akiko, who's one of the trainers in the security person for the Arashikage. That's Akiko. That's not Scarlet. Scarlet shows up for the final battle. Granted, Scarlet does. I love Samara Weaving as her. She has the crossbow and everything. It's great. She has a run-in with the Baroness. I liked it. But I just don't think you needed her for anything other than the end of this movie. Where she could have said, I'm with a group called G.I. Joe. Here's what I have for you. The secret I have for you that you've been looking for. At least part of what you've been looking for. We think, we've been watching you. We think you might be a perfect fit for the Joes, right? So yeah, as much as I love Samara Weaving, and Samara, I love you. I know you'll never see it, but I love you. I love that you're Scarlet, but they could have introduced you at the end of the movie, and it would have worked way better. Again, but I loved what she did. I loved her in this movie. I love Samara Weaving, but she didn't need to be in the movie. I think story-wise, she shouldn't have been. And not because I didn't want her here, but because story-wise it would have worked better. I liked her in this, but she didn't need to be in it. At least till the end. Or a mid-credit scene, or an after-credit scene. This movie didn't have an after-credit scene. It had a mid-credit scene, and I liked it too. But let's talk about another thing I hate, was the jewel. Okay, if Cobra wanted the jewel to say, power a machine, or power all their machines, or something like that. I mean, it was a MacGuffin. It was a huge MacGuffin, right? But if they wanted it to power their machines or something, I would have been cool with that. It's some rare material or something that can power everything or whatever. That's fine, but no. We had to get mystical with it too. And I hated it. Because the way this jewel worked was, it's, I guess, if you concentrated hard enough, you could, dissolve people with it, right? Or you could start fires or do whatever you wanted to do with it, because Kenta does all sorts of cool stuff with it. And, he sets fires, and he disintegrates a guy, and later Storm Shadow uses it and, explodes everything. I hated that, because if you have this all-powerful weapon, and then you don't use it, you're a chump. So Kenta ended up being a chump, because he would toy with Tommy's grandmother, who was the head of the Arashikage. He would toy with her during this final battle. It's like, just disintegrate her if you're going to disintegrate her. It just made no sense for him to, goof around with it. If you have the powerful weapon, you use it, right? So I hated the jewel. If it would have been something like a power source or something like that, it would have worked. But yeah, I hated it. I just hated it. Another thing I didn't like was the fight scenes. Let me correct myself there. The fight scenes were fine. The camera work for the fight scenes. Look, I love the Bourne movies. I really do. But over time, can we all agree that shaky cam fights should have died? I thought they were gone. I mean, we have movies like John Wick that have amazing action scenes that you can see. People are in agreement. We want to see the action. But man, okay, I was cool with a lot of the weird camera shots and the pans and the camera pullouts and everything they did in this. But when they're fighting and the whole camera's just shaking, I can't stand that anymore. And this movie, it didn't always do it, but it did it too much. It was just hard to tell what was going on in the fight scenes, and it drove me nuts. Another thing I didn't like, okay, and this is more the fan of me, and maybe it'll come later. It probably, oh, you know what? This will probably come in a sequel. So I'm not going to be too hard on it. But the whole thing about Snake Eyes' character losing his voice. Now I know, what was it? G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra just had he had a code of silence or whatever. But G.I. Joe fans, of course, know that he his face gets messed up and his vocal cords get messed up and he can't talk anymore. And it's an endearing quality of Snake Eyes because it makes him very mysterious. We don't get that in this movie, which again, it'll probably come in the future if they make another one, and that's fine. It is. But it was just weird not having that for this character. It's probably coming later, though. Another thing, the trailer, okay, they show him doing the Snake Eyes visor, and it comes down, and he rides off on the motorcycle, right? Shouldn't have shown that in the trailer, being that that's the only time we ever see him in the costume. You should have saved it. You really should have. Why show that in the trailer if it's the only time he's going to be in the costume? It would have been fine. I would have liked it if he wouldn't have worn the costume. If he would have worn the costume for the last battle or something, it would have been weird hearing him talk behind the mask. And maybe that's what they were trying to avoid. But if they do another movie, he's got the costume now. Is he going to talk behind the mask? So if they shouldn't have shown it, they really should not have spoiled him wearing the costume if you are only going to show it the one time in the movie. So, yeah, as a fan, while I was fine with the changes that they made, I was disappointed that they had to go supernatural with some things. Never with G.I. Joe should you go supernatural. It just doesn't work, man. Use tech, use military, use science. Not supernatural. So as a fan, I'm pretty disappointed in this movie. That being said, as a fan, I loved what they did with Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes, and I'm going to talk about the mid-credit scene. Earlier in the movie, Akiko says to Tommy, "You have that look in your eyes, the look of a shadow before a storm," right? So of course that's a call to his future name. And in the mid-credit scene, Tommy, who at the end of the movie feels betrayed by the Arashikage because of the decision he made. But here's the thing, of course, what worked was being that Snake Eyes was doing the Arashikage dirty. Tommy has every right to be upset, to be mad. And then when the jewel gets stolen, that's Snake Eyes' fault. Tommy helps get it back. Granted, he's the one that brought Snake Eyes in, but he was deceived. So Tommy has every right to be angry, and that's why I like his character arc. And granted, I love his character arc in like the cartoons and stuff because, granted, in the cartoons, I believe he was mind controlled. But here, you have someone that is rightfully mad and rightfully wronged, and he's the one being punished in the end. They forgive Snake Eyes at the end because he ends up realizing when he finally is going to get a part of his past, something he's been looking forward to that Cobra and Kenta have promised him, he's going to get this. He realizes that Cobra's behind it to begin with. So he realizes, I better get that jewel back. I've done the Arashikage wrong. And they forgive him for it. But oh no. Tommy uses the jewel, and they're not supposed to. He uses the jewel near the end of the movie, and everything he's worked for is taken away from him. He has every right to be pissed. So we get to the mid-credit scene, and Tommy's on a plane, and he's approached by a worker on the plane who offers him a drink. Of course, the worker on the plane ends up being the Baroness. So, of course, he's ready to attack, and she's like, "Oh, no. I think we can work together. I think I can give you what you want." Which, of course, is Snake Eyes' head, because Tommy says, if I ever see you again, or next time I see you, you're dead. And of course, that makes Snake Eyes go, well, I need to go find Tommy, and we need to work this out. So again, they're going to continue this brotherhood thing, and I love it. That's the best part of the movie, is the brotherhood stuff, which it should be. But the Baroness is like, I can help you. You've lost an army. I've got a bigger one. Cobra, right? So, the next movie, which I don't know if it's going to be another Snake Eyes movie or if it'll be a G.I. Joe movie. Are we going to get other characters? I don't know. I'm not sure how they're going to do this, because if you have a G.I. Joe movie, they're going to have to continue the Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow story. But maybe it'll just be another Snake Eyes movie, and we'll get some more G.I. Joe characters in it or something. I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe we'll actually get some more Scarlet, and it'll mean something this time. But anyway, they're on the plane, and he goes, no, don't call me Tommy. Call me Storm Shadow. And I loved it. It's cheesy as it was. I loved it. So, yeah, that's Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins. It had a lot that worked, man. But you brought in that supernatural crap. And if they drop that crap next time, if you drop the supernatural, it'll be a way better movie. And, man, critics are eviscerating this movie. And I don't want to eviscerate this movie. Man, I wanted to love this movie. I liked... there was things I liked about the other two live-action movies. And I thought, granted, they did some things I didn't like, but this one did a lot I liked. And then it just had to just do these little bits and nitpicks here and there that... And, I probably am nitpicking this one. But, no, there was a lot that bothered me about this. And it bothered me, really, because it's more of a disappointment, because I thought the changes they were making when it came to the origin story and everything worked. It made it interesting. It made the Brotherhood interesting. It made the betrayal. It made the hatred that the two finally have, or at least that Tommy has for Snake Eyes. It made it work, man. Because he had every right to be pissed. So, do I want to see another one? Yeah, I do. Do I want to see him drop the supernatural crap and focus on what worked the first time? Yes, I do. So, in the end, though this movie is a disappointment, I want to see where it goes. Will they make another one? I don't know. I don't know how well it's going to do at the box office. I'm recording this before the weekend's over. I know it came out after the weekend, but yeah, man, I want to see more, but I don't know if it's going to do well enough to get more. Favorite parts of the movie: Henry Golding was fine, but Andrew Koji is my favorite part of the movie as Tommy Storm Shadow. I love seeing the Hard Master from Iko Uwais. Peter Mensah was good as the Blind Master. Had they used her better, Samara Weaving will be a great Scarlet. Ursula Cabarros's, I don't know, maybe she'll grow on me. And one thing I forgot about Scarlet, I can't prove it, but I swear they ADR'd her the whole movie. Because anytime I swear she was talking, it just, I don't know, it didn't look right. It didn't look like she was saying what she was saying. I swear they had to ADR or something. I could be wrong on that, and it was just bad camera shots or something. But anyway, I want to see more. I do. Because what worked really worked. Just drop the supernatural BS. Make it more about the tech, the science, the ninjas, the military stuff. It can work. Just drop the supernatural crap. Because, man, was it bad. But anyway, that's my review of Snake Eyes. Hope you've enjoyed it. See you later.